Today is May 20th, 2022. We're going to continue our Zooming today. And Grandpa, today I wanted to, last time, when we finished up last week, you told us all about working all the way up to your retirement. You've gotten kind of far along, at least for work-wise. But I wanted to back up, and today I wanted to kind of talk about Esther for a good chunk of today, or maybe the entire day. Just because I don't really know that much about my my grandma, because I was 1 or 0 or I don't have any direct memories of her. And we've talked about her pretty much up to, you told me about her when you met her, and pretty much everything kind of up and you guys got married. And and obviously she's shown up in some of the stories, but I want to get to know a little bit more about her and like what she did and different things about her, that you know of. I want to hear, I want to see what stories I can learn about Esther today, if that sounds okay.
Okay, ask questions.
So I could,
ask questions.
Yeah, okay. So, I'll start very generally because I don't know any specifics. So, I mean, when you guys were married and stuff, and I know when we've talked about like Mae and Esther's relationship before, and we've talked about that part, but I want to know more about like what she was into and stuff. Like, did she, what did Esther enjoy doing? Did she have hobbies? What did she do on the weekends? What made her, what did she enjoy doing and stuff?
Well, I almost don't know how to answer that. We have to inject actually Auntie Mae.
That's fine.
Yeah, because
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna. Sorry. I also, and you can interject Auntie Mae. We've talked about their relationship and how it was often either very hot or cold. It was, you've told me about that, and I'm aware. But I was just kind of curious about, what she, if she, I guess what you guys did or what she was alluded to at one point, that she was in charge of some of the finances around the house. And I think she worked at like a bookkeeping, right? She was good at that stuff, right?
She was what they called a bookkeeper. And you might say she was an unlicensed accountant because she was smart with figures. She was, for most of her life, she worked for a friend called Freida and Eddie. I don't know if you recall the name Freida and Eddie. I think no. I think on a previous interview we had, I might have described him, but I'm not sure what I said about him. So I guess
I don't think you said much. You had mentioned that she had a side job working for someone, and you might have said Freida, but so you can start from the beginning for this.
Okay, we might
that's what you want.
At the beginning again. Freida and Eddie. Okay, let's start off with Freida. During the war, both Esther and Mae were very patriotic. They wanted to do something short of going to work in a war factory somewhere. So in 1942, see, Esther would have been 17 years old. I'm not sure. She was born in 1925, so she would have been 15 years old in 1940. 1942, she was 70. Yeah, okay. She and me were 17 years old, really too young to go to work in a war factory. They were still in school. But they joined. There was a local metropolitan organization of I don't know how to describe them. War helpers. There were men who were on the lookout for airplanes that shouldn't be there, for spies or whatever. They were doing war work, and in this case, it was an ambulance corps. Now, I'm not sure whether they drove an ambulance or not. You can get licensed in California at that time at 16 years old. I think it's still the same.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So they were ambulance drivers. They had uniforms and all that. And in this little group of people, I don't know whether you'd call it a squad or what, they were commanded by a very overbearing lady called Freida. Simmons. Freida and Eddie Simmons. Because let's see, Jackie is married to Freida and Eddie's son. If that'll give you any connection now.
Got it. Yes, I didn't realize that.
After the war, sometime after the war, I'm not exactly sure, Freida and Eddie went into business with wholesale pottery. They opened a small store, or it wasn't a retail store. I guess most of their work was, or their products were shipped out. I'm trying to get a time frame in here, and it's not easy. This was after Mark and Judi got out of school. Mark went into the Naval Reserve when he got out of school, and I don't remember what Judi. Oh, Judi got married at a very young age. Yeah. So with Mark and Judi gone, now Esther can go to work. And for whatever reason, she went to work for Freida and Eddie. It's something I didn't want, because Freida and Eddie used Esther. That's the only way I can explain it. just paid her wages. Esther literally ran the business from a financial standpoint. She did the books, did all the paperwork for the shipping they did and all that. And literally, she was the only employee they had. And Esther's sense of, well, of loyalty, let's call it that. Her sense of loyalty overwhelmed her better sense. And so for all those years, she worked for Freida and Eddie for peanuts, so to speak. That's not, I'm injecting my own view. Personally, they were good friends, Freida and Eddie. I like both of them, but my feelings for them were mixed because of the way they used Esther, and we had a lot of conversations. I wouldn't say arguments. We had a lot of conversations where I told Esther she should be working somewhere else, not working because of loyalty. That's what it was. So after she got sick, I'm not sure why she finally left Freida and Eddie's place. I don't know whether the business slowed up or what. My memory that is a little bit vague, but I've already talked about how she got sick and what we went through in the two years between her mastectomy and the day she died.
Actually, no, we haven't talked about that before. So we're going to get into that because
we haven't.
No, you've had that conversation with someone else because recently, maybe because we haven't talked about it.
Okay, all right.
I actually don't know. I don't know a lot about her illness and basically things leading up to it. But if there's any, if there's a story, so she worked pretty much. It sounds like she worked up till after the kids were gone, until until she got sick or something in that area.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, she sounds like a pretty sharp lady.
Okay, let's do it. Ask me questions. That's right now. That's the only way I can operate. My mind.
What did she like to do for fun? Like, I mean, or was pretty much the like, did she have any hobbies or anything? I was just curious about, like, you know, did she have any passions or?
Her passions were her sister. Because when she wasn't home or wasn't working, she was either with her sister or talking on the phone. That was your grandma's passion, was her sister. There were times they couldn't be together. At the same time, they couldn't be apart either. They were like one. I often thought that if your mother had to make a decision about either me or her sister, she would have chosen her sister. That's my feelings. I don't know if that was really true or not.
Okay, so then I guess we can get into because I don't know what specific questions necessarily to ask you about Esther. Uh, so we can get into her illness. So tell me about when you first started, or basically you can start at the beginning, I guess. How did I know she was sick for a while. Um, you know, when did you guys first start sensing that?
Okay, what sometime, I guess it was in the spring of 1978. One night she dropped a bombshell. She had a large nodule or knob under her armpit. I don't remember whether it was the left or the right, probably the right armpit. I knew, I realized when you have a problem with the glands under your armpit, that means you have some kind of infection in your body, your upper body. And we got her in to see the doctor right away. Needless to say, they had a what do you call it, a biopsy, and it was malignant. At that time, we were belonged to a chapter of the City of Hope called the Dick Salter chapter. Auntie Shirley, Uncle Dard were deeply involved in it. Well, along with Auntie Shirley had a friend. Let's see, what was her name? Rosie Salter. I don't, they met the Salters at the same time when they were neighbors on Warren Avenue, and they lived in Venice. And they had it was literally a lifelong friendship. They belong to a chapter of the City of Hope called the Dick Salter chapter. And once a year, they had a big fundraiser at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. Big goings on there. Big goings on there. They raised a lot of money. And anyway, they got Esther into the City of Hope. The short answer to that is she had a mastectomy on her right breast. And it also had metastasized. I think that's the word, I'm not sure, in other parts of her body, which they were trying to control for about six weeks. We drove out to the City of Hope every other day for radiation treatments and for chemical medications that they injected in her body.
The chemotherapy.
therapy, and it's she went down probably from the radiation and the medication did a lot of damage to her, I believe, because she literally was never the same. We fought through after that, the next 2 years. There was a period in the spring, I guess in the spring of 1979, where she started feeling a little bit better, and she decided to go back to work again. Somehow she found out about a clothing company that was being started up in Canoga Park. And incidentally, she started driving again too. She started driving again too.
Well, how had she changed? Like you said, she
Well,
changed.
how
Was
she
it her
changed?
personality? Was it
Yes,
her?
yes. Yeah, they're very, very quiet. Her outgoing personality was kind of like disappeared. She became very quiet. She used to talk with very forceful words. Anyway, she went to work for this little company in Canoga Park. Then in December of 1979, she decided she wanted to see her Aunt Florence, and who had retired in Tucson, Arizona. I forget Florence's husband's name. I'm trying to think of it right now. They were, of course, part of the Epstein clan. Okay, that's not a part of it. We drove to Tucson to visit Florence and her husband. We stayed there a couple of days, and then we were driving back to LA, and Esther started displaying symptoms of behavior that had not been a part of her before. Being forgetful, forgetful of where she was, and just other behavioral changes that I had to cope with. I was still working at the scrapyard in Carson, and I would leave her alone. Sometimes I would come back, and either she didn't know me or her behavior was changing, and she had to leave the small clothing factory she was working for in Canoga Park. Incidentally, that little company, the name of the company was Guess, Guess, and Guess became a major producer of jeans for women.
Yes, indeed.
Had Esther not been sick, they loved her. and the work they did. And who knows what would have happened to her had she not been sick. Okay, that's past. We were driving back, and she reiterated during the drive, reiterated she didn't want to go home when we were maybe 100 miles from home. So I asked her, where do you want to go? She said any place. She didn't want to go home. So somehow or other, we ended up in Palmdale. She started having headaches, incidentally, prior to this for several weeks previous. She would complain about a headache, and then it would go away and come back and go away. We stopped at a hospital in Palmdale, and they took x-rays of her, and they couldn't find out what was wrong. Eventually, we got home. I'm not sure after how many days. And after that, she used to wake up in the middle of the night in the darkness, instead of sit up in bed, and just had weird behavior. She would sing. She would tap the top of my head like she was playing a piano, and other weird things. And eventually she would fall asleep again. And then this went through December and into January of 1980. And then one day I came home from work, and she was laying on the floor, partially with her legs in the kitchen and the top of her torso in the dining room. And
Judi Barr.
okay, hold on a minute.
And we're back. We'll continue on with where we were. So I'll hand it back to you, Grandpa.
I had a call 911. I just couldn't pick her up. She was half conscious, half unconscious at the time. I also called Mae. I'm not sure about the train of events that happened after that. 911 came. They put her on a gurney and took her out in the ambulance. Mae was here, and we went to Northridge Hospital. This was late in the week, probably the 15th or 16th or 17th of January. I'm just not sure. Took her to the hospital. We stayed most of the night, I guess. I'm not sure what the train of events were. The medical side of it was that she had something called hydrocephalus. Hydro being water, and encephalitis having something to do with the head or the brain. I'm not sure. another way of saying water on the brain. And what they were doing was putting a shunt in her skull, running it under her skin and down her neck and into her gut to drain off the excess pressure. This was on a I think a Friday after I had gotten home. Saturday, I believe they put the shunt in, and Sunday she was relatively aware of her surroundings. I guess by relieving that pressure, it helped her a lot. If I remember right, May and I took turns at the hospital, and we were there again Sunday. She was either sleeping or unconscious, though most of the time. At about 8, it was still early in the evening, maybe 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'm not sure of the time. All of a sudden, she sat up and looked at me and said, "Bobby, am I going to die?" I didn't know what to say. It's like somebody dropping a load of bricks on your head with no way to escape. And I grabbed her hand and I said, "Of course not." And I couldn't say anymore. She kind of eased up and laid back. And I'm not sure how long I stayed after that, but finally we went home. She went back to sleep. And I went home, and this was now we're maybe 10 or 9, 10, 10:30 evening. I was exhausted, so I went to bed. About a quarter after 5, the telephone rang, and I picked it up, and it was Dr. Nelson. He was her primary doctor. And he said, "Bob, I have something to tell you. Esther decided that she didn't want to fight all the discomfort she had." I can't recall his words, but that was the crux of it. And he said, about 20 minutes ago, she decided to leave us, and she died peacefully in her sleep. I just kind of sunk to the floor. I guess I knew it was coming. He hung up, and I had been leaning against the wall of the bedroom near the entrance, and now I was sitting down on the floor. I guess my legs collapsed. I got up again, and I called May and Sam and told him. That's about all I remember, because the days after that are kind of a blank for me right now.
Did you guys, is she buried, or was she cremated, or?
No, she's buried at the cemetery. I forget the name of it. It's north on Sepulveda Boulevard. You go north up past Rinaldi, and the cemetery's on your right. She's buried there next to Mae and Sam. I should say Mae and Sam were buried next to her. What happened was some years prior to this, we had a chance to buy burial plots at the cemetery. We actually bought them real cheap. I don't know what we paid for them, but we both bought a plot. Now let's. I'm not sure when this happened. It was probably in the early 1970s. So, for whatever reason, I think one day Sam asked me if I would sell him my plot. I'm not sure what brought this up or what was said at the time, but the whole thing is I sold my plot to Sam, and he is now buying where I am supposed to be. Mae and Esther and Sam are all together there. And they're buried right next to the fence on the street Rinaldi. I'm not sure. You have access to maps. Go take a look at Sepulveda Boulevard and see what that cemetery is, what the name of it is.
Give me one moment, but I can do as you wish.
Oh, it might be called Home of Peace, but I'm not sure.
Okay. What were the main cross streets you said? Rinaldi and
Rinaldi and Sepulveda.
Rinaldi.
If
and
it's not on
Sepulveda.
Rinaldi, it would be north of Rinaldi, then at the core on the northeast corner.
I realize I need to share screen. Okay, give me one moment. Do you see maps?
Okay.
So this is here's 405. There's Rinaldi, and this is Sepulveda right here. So there's the Catholic cemetery, which I'm guessing that's not where she is. And on the other side is the grave of Groucho Marx.
Okay.
So is this the cemetery here? Or sorry, I'm changing it to.
Let's see, Rinaldi.
Here's Rinaldi. Here's Sepulveda on this side.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Home. Let's see, Eden Memorial Park. Yeah, that's it. Okay, yeah. The street is Rinaldi, and okay, we see where the arrows are now, where the little black arrow is just above Rinaldi, just over the tree.
Yeah, that's my cursor.
Yeah. Okay, move. move down to the sidewalk. Move the
Okay.
arrow. You're right there. Now move to the right.
Okay.
Move a little more. Okay, right in there. Okay, that's where Esther, Mae, and Sam are buried. Right where that black arrow is.
Okay. I've never actually been to that, but now that I know where that is,
Yeah.
that's good. And I think my other grandfather's on the other side, Harlan Bart.
Well, also Esther and Mae's mother and father, Anna and Max, are also buried there, and as is Max's brother Harry is also buried there.
Okay. Let me see if I'll stop sharing screen.
Okay.
Okay. So it sounds like I guess obviously things were pretty different after she passed away for you, I assume.
Yeah.
You know, I guess we don't want to get into, actually, I do know what goes on after that, and we don't want to get into meeting Lucille yet. But
Well,
I can only imagine how.
Well, actually, I was to meet Lucille 3 weeks later.
Let's not do that conversation yet, because actually I
No.
want to do that. That is a short time period. Yeah, I can imagine how it was a kind of a blur throughout this period. I think that might be, unless there's any other stories that you can think of offhand. And I know that it's easier when I ask you questions. If anything you want to reminisce about Esther, maybe this is a good time to kind of wrap up for the day.
No, except Esther life when I wasn't involved, then it was with her sister. That's what my memories were. Again, I can reiterate that if she had to make a choice, Esther would have chosen her sister. And I'm not sure I could argue with that either.
Well, they obviously had a bond that was pretty unique amongst
there
people.
was a bond there that I don't know what you could call it, but when two flowers grown out of the same seed is what it was.
I guess thinking about that, how did it, considering, it's the same thing for Mae. Obviously, it was, the same relationship for her, but she lost her sister. Did Mae change after her sister passed away? Because she lost, she also lost half of her, because I assume it was reciprocal.
Mae, did change her. She which is my recollection, she was much quieter. She was no longer dominated. She no longer had to fight her sister. That's the only thing I can figure out. Maybe you might ask Jackie and or Sharon their thoughts about their mother after their Auntie Esther died. You can probably get more from them than you can get from me. One thing I was very grateful for was when Lucille entered the picture, they accepted her wholeheartedly. I appreciated that. Well, appreciated that a whole lot.
Yeah, I can imagine so. That's not always the case, but that's fortunate. Okay, well, thanks for taking me through a little bit of Esther's life and also some of the painful parts of her death, which I knew a little bit of, but I know a little bit more about. And I will pick up again hopefully next week again. Sound good?
Okay. Pass my best to the family.
Will do.
I miss them.
Well, hopefully we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, Grandpa.
Bye.